Good.
Here. Okay. So the good point about the question. So anytime, just like, you know, jump in and ask questions, right?
Yeah, jump in.
And okay, so the so we don't, you know, Nikki and I could probably do like a 3-hour workshop even more about all of this. So we're gonna try to keep it short and sweet.
Keep it short.
And give you as much as insight as possible. So the 3 ways, so there's pretty much 3 ways to use essential oils, and there's also 3 ways oils work. So the 3 ways to use it is topically, which means you put it onto your skin. And then, and I'll just mention the 3 and then go into a little bit of more details about each of those 3. And then the other one is the aromatically. So that's when we smell it. And, you know, obviously when we put it onto our skin, we also smell it. So a lot of times it's not just one way we're using it right away. We already have like 2 ways. Like we put it on the skin, we smell it as well. And then the third one is, and I mentioned it as the third option for a reason as well, because it's not needed at all to kind of get all the benefits of the essential oils. It's more like if you, and I don't like to say advanced either, but it's just you really don't need to, but you can if you're interested in to take the oils internal. Having said that, it's really important that you watch for the quality of the oils. And we're talking here, I mean, Nikki and I are using doTERRA oils. Many of you are probably familiar with or have heard of doTERRA. doTERRA oils are certified pure therapeutic grade oils, which means they're higher quality than organic oils. They're therapeutic grade oils, and they are considered food grade, so they are safe to take in. However, under certain precautions. So not all the oils you can be taken internal, and also the dose has to be watched. So you don't want to use a carrier oil or dilute them just to make sure your system can take it. And again, I just want to make sure that you understand, like, really be mindful of the quality of the oils when you do that. I can't stress that enough.
Yeah, Andrina's being really careful with her language here, because doTERRA is also, it's a big company, and doTERRA is very clear with us about how we talk about taking the oils internally. So that's why she's being super clear here.
Yeah. And I mean, I can talk about myself. I do take them internally. But
good luck on the drive. That's it.
But it's very personal. It's a very personal choice. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I think somebody's just unmuting for some reason.
Okay. And so going back to the topical is very easy. And I just had, and we probably, maybe the next call we'll talk about that oil, because Nikki and I both love that oil too. It's Senchest. And the little H just had a little bit of an upset stomach, and I rubbed my belly, put it on the bottom of my feet, and 15 minutes later, my belly was great, right? And that's how fast, like if we apply the oils topically, they go very fast into our system. And we can apply them to the affected area. So for example, you know, what I just said, you know, with an upset belly, we can put it on the belly, but the bottom of the feet, if you're not sure, or if you have children, the bottom of the feet is a really great option, because we have a lot of nerves in our feet, and the skin is not as sensitive. Like maybe, for example, here, like our skin is much more sensitive here than on the bottom of our feet. Plus, sometimes you maybe don't want to walk around like a big, you know, bottle of essential oil. So if you put it on your feet, it's not as obvious. So that's the topical part. And there are certain areas where I like to apply them on myself. So I like this point like here, like heart center. I think it's a beautiful spot. In the crease of your elbow is beautiful. Bottom of the feet I mentioned. The spine is amazing. You know, rollers are really helpful for the spine because you can just take, you know, you can just take a roller, and I'll talk a little bit more when I talk about deep blue. You can just take a roller and put it on the spine. If you're of course living with somebody that can help you. And then, like I said, affected areas or like, you know, areas of concern, you can apply it directly. Having said that, now summer is coming, be really careful with citrus oils and applying it to the skin. You do not want to apply citrus oils onto your skin in a 24-hour radius. You may be having sun exposure. You really burn your skin. So this week it's been raining in Switzerland, so I've been, you know, taking advantage of using citrus oils a little bit more again in my body lotion or something, because in the summer I hardly ever use citrus oils on myself, on the skin. And then the aromatically comes in when we apply it. We smell it, like I mentioned at the beginning. And then of course, you know, you can make spray bottles, you can put it in a diffuser. That's really nice to have it in your living space, for example. And also there, depending on what you need, you want to relax, you want to lift up, do you need to clean the air? So then you can all play with different oils. That's the 3 ways of using the oils. Nikki, do you have anything to add?
I just want to say that in my role as Hermione, with regards to the topical application, it took me a very long time and a lot of research to be convinced that if I rubbed an oil on a part of my body, first of all, even a part of my body that was right where the ailment was. So if I rubbed peppermint oil on my body, say, or peppermint oil on my head for a headache, that was actually going to go in through my skin and actually make a difference. But through personal experience and also through research, I have figured out that it absolutely does work. Transdermal is what we call it. So transdermal application, and these molecules in these oils are so small that they actually do go in through the skin and go into the bloodstream. And that's when Andrina was talking about putting oil on the soles of your feet. That also works. And at first, when Andrina told me to do that, I was like, there's no way that this works. And I actually did experience personally some relief, almost immediate relief from allergies. Remember that in Switzerland with On Guard, which Andrina is going to talk about. But yeah, I used to mow the lawn before our retreats, and I would get these terrible allergy attacks. And Andrina rubbed essential oil on the bottom of my feet, and within 5 or 10 minutes, I wasn't sneezing anymore. So that was proof enough for me. Transdermal does work, and I have done the research. So just my 2 cents as Hermione.
Love it. Thank you. Something popped up and I forgot, but it may come back to me. Yeah, and then, so that's the way to use them. And then you want to talk to me about how they work, right? Nikki.
Yeah, do you want to, or do you want me to jump in with the 2 oils? I mean, we can also just cover that in our
why don't you jump in? Why don't you go ahead with your oil?
Okay, because today I'm talking about Copaiba and frankincense, and they're 2 of my absolute favorite oils. I have a bunch of versions of them here. I don't know why lavender's here, but I have some here. I think I'll talk about Copaiba first, just because if I actually had to choose one oil that I would bring with me to a deserted island. Oh, a deserted island sounds so nice right now. It would be Copaiba for sure, no question. And I know a lot of people are curious about it, so I'm just going to do it first because that's kind of seems to be, it's the oil du jour. Everybody's very interested in Copaiba, and the reason everybody's very interested in Copaiba is its kind of relationship with CBD. This is CBD oil, and this is Copaiba. So everybody's kind of talking about CBD, as you know, whether we're eating it, whether we're putting it on our body for pain relief. So we're talking about CBD from the perspective of basically inflammation or reducing pain. And something that's interesting, when I did the research for this, I found out that CBD is not actually an essential oil. We call it an oil, but it's actually not. CBD is a molecule that's taken from a hemp plant, but that it's then dissolved in a carrier oil. So CBD oil is not an essential oil. This is Copaiba, and it is an essential oil. So essential oils are distilled directly from plants, and there's no carrier oil in here. This is just pure Copaiba resin from the Copaiba tree. Actually, 4 different kinds of Copaiba trees go into this. So that's kind of interesting. And if you take CBD, you kind of know how much CBD you have to take. You have to take a full dropper of this at least to get an effect. So Copaiba has a lot of the same properties. It reduces inflammation, it helps with pain, and it helps with anxiety. All of these things I've noticed, and I also notice my effect. I also notice its effect on skin, like just the beautifying effect. And I'll talk about that. Peggy's going to join the next talk, but Peggy, my friend Peggy, is the biggest advocate for Copaiba that there is. One time she actually messaged me and she said, I just put Copaiba all over my face and I can't feel my face. It's numb. Do you think that's a problem? And I was like, yes, that's a problem. But it is actually super interesting what Copaiba does to you. I think of it as a natural Botox. I'll talk about that in a second. I'll talk about that when I talk about how I use it, because that's just kind of anecdotal from my perspective. But there's 4 things about essential oils that we can think about, and we also need to think about those with regards to CBD. So they call them the 4 C's. I need to get them right, so I'm going to look at my notes. Sorry, the 4 P's: purity, potency, price. And I forgot the 4th one. I didn't even write down the 4th one. Anyway, we'll talk about the 3 P's first. Purity is important when it comes to CBD. I think you know, like you can buy CBD anywhere, and it seems to be completely unregulated. With Copaiba oil, hopefully, if you're with a big company that's dependable, they're doing their own testing, so the purity is guaranteed. There's tons of testing going on with especially with doTERRA. Potency is the next P, that's the strength. And like I said before, you have to take an entire drop, entire dropper full internally of CBD. And with Copaiba, you only have to take 1 drop. That's about 5 milligrams to get the same effect. So that's pretty amazing. And then it goes without saying. Sorry, go ahead.
Just jumping in on the potency, it's a really, really good point. Another example, like my deserted island oil is peppermint, which is pretty simple. It's love it. So just for you to also understand the potency of these oils, like 1 drop of peppermint oil is as strong or as concentrated as 28 peppermint teas.
Yeah. So if you put 1 drop of peppermint oil in hot water, basically you have the potency of 28 peppermint tea bags.
Yeah,
it's a lot. It's a lot of peppermint. Yeah, yeah. So that's also a warning. They're very strong. They're very, very strong. So if you take them internally, or if you put them on your skin, like Andrina said, if you put citrus oils on your skin, apparently you go outside in the sun. I've heard people say this. I've never experienced this, but you can get a brown spot almost immediately. So you have to be really, really careful with that. So where was I? Oh, then price. Yeah, we know that CBD is super expensive. Copaiba is not an expensive oil. I think is it $40 a bottle, Andrina? Is that right? Or less? I don't even know.
I'm in euro.
Yeah, you're in euros, right? I think it's about $40 for this bottle, which seems expensive, but when you think that it's $100 for the CBD bottle and you're taking a dropper full at a time, whereas for this, you're taking a drop at a time, literally, that's kind of amazing. So just a little tiny bit of science around Copaiba. some people might know this already about the endocannabinoid system, but in our body, there are a bunch of receptors that are called the endocannabinoid system. And you probably have heard about that because of the popularity of CBD. What happens is the molecules from the oil, they go in and they attach to the receptors, your endocannabinoid receptors, and those are all over your body. That's why CBD and Copaiba work so well for pain, because they have these pain receptors all over our body, or we have. Our body makes endogenous cannabinoids. Our body basically makes Copaiba oil and CBD by itself. Some bodies are better than others, right? So if you have an older body, you might not be as good at making those cannabinoids as a younger body. That's where this stuff comes in super handy. So that's where this whole potency thing comes in too. If you're putting in a big dropper full of CBD oil, it takes longer to get there because it's diluted. The stuff is strong, one drop. Another thing that's really interesting about CBD and Copaiba, this is highly regulated. CBD is highly regulated, right? You have to go to a special place to get it. It doesn't come in the mail. Well, maybe it does now in Canada, but in some ways it's not regulated, like the potency isn't regulated and the purity isn't regulated, but it's highly regulated, like the government wants to know when you're getting CBD and where you're getting it. Copaiba does not have that kind of limitation. So that's also kind of interesting. And the other thing is consistency of dose. I don't know if you've ever tried CBD for anything, but you need to use it daily. If you're putting a giant dropper full in your body daily, that's really hard. One drop of Copaiba, not hard. Doesn't taste the best, but it's not hard. So I'm just gonna flip over, because we don't have a lot of time, I'm gonna flip over into how I use it now, which will address some more issues. But it's the first oil that I use in the morning. I put a drop either, well, I do two things. I put some on my fingertips. I can do it right now. I just do this. I turn it over a couple of times. I put it on 3 fingertips. This is when I'm sitting down to meditate, which is first thing. And I put it on, I put it on my third eye in the middle, and I swipe it towards my temples. And this is where you get that benefit where I was talking about how Peggy said her face went numb. What happens is with Copaiba, I do this right before I go to bed as well. It stops you from having that eyebrow, you know where your eyebrows go together? If you practice with me, I talk about this all the time in yoga. You know, your eyebrows go together and you think you can carry the weight of the world and make things better by squinching your eyebrows together, and you get those little 11 marks here. Copaiba stops that. It actually kind of numbs you. I don't know if that's awesome or not, but I feel like it's awesome for me. I also do that right before I go to bed. And then I also do something else. I turn it over like this. So I don't even take a whole drop. I just turn it over on my finger and I rub it across the roof of my mouth like that. And then I sit and meditate. And it gives you this incredible, it doesn't taste the best. It tastes a little bit like tree bark, but it's not horrible. It's not bitter. It's very earthy. And then I just take the rest of it and I smell it. So I'm doing a bunch of things there. I'm doing all 3 of those things Andrina talked about. I'm using aromatically. I'm smelling it. I'm bringing it into my lungs. And basically that's the same as taking it internally. I'm taking the molecules into my lungs. It's going into my bloodstream. That's how the aromatics work. And I'm also applying it topically. So I'm getting it, you know, in the skin around my my temples. It's basically going into my brain. And I'm taking it internally, but I still haven't even taken a whole drop. So it's kind of amazing. And then when I sit, when I meditate, it gives me this grounded sense of lack of anxiety. So a lot of people use Copaiba in all of those ways to relieve anxiety, just like CBD. So I do that every single morning. And then every single night, I do the same thing with my third eye, the space between the eyebrows. I do the same thing just before I go to bed. I use Copaiba directly out of the bottle. A lot of people would say you should put it in a carrier oil, and probably I should say that as well. But I don't. I find it very gentle on my skin. I find it incredibly beneficial for my skin. I also, when I remember, rub it around my lips. It's amazing for wrinkles. It's just amazing for reducing fine lines and wrinkles. So I just rub it around my lips, and then of course, then I also get the smell of it too. Trying to think of how else I use it. Oh, I also in the morning, sometimes when I remember, I rub it on my vagus nerve. So I actually, this is what I kind of taught mom to do, my mom, but I rub it down both sides of my face. I do exactly the same thing. I rarely even put a whole drop in my hand. I actually do the same thing with my fingers. I just turn it over and then I rub it down my vagus nerve. I find that has made an incredible amount of difference for me. Some of you know I had a parasitic illness for a while, and I'm recovering from it, and I had some trauma with that to my vagus nerve. So I rub it on my vagus nerve just before I meditate or just before bed. I'm trying to think of how else. Oh, I also use Copaiba on my nails. I put a couple of drops in my palm and I rub it into my nails, and then I rub it on both sides. And I've noticed an incredible, I have really soft, brittle nails that break really easily. And I've noticed a huge difference with that too. So I probably use a total of 4 drops of Copaiba a day. That's, I guess, probably around that. Maybe 5, but probably not even. 3 to 5 drops a day. So I feel like I'm using up a lot of time here. So I'm gonna switch over. Maybe we shouldn't have said we're gonna talk about so many oils. I'm gonna switch over to frankincense, just because that's my other amazing oil of choice. Frankincense looks like this. It's a little more expensive, but worth every penny. So the thing about frankincense is it really relieves inflammation. Copaiba, people tend to talk about it with regards to anxiety more. With frankincense, people talk about inflammation. It's a very famous oil. It's biblical oil. It's been around in our consciousness for thousands of years. I think something like 5,000 years. Basically, frankincense works for everything because we know about inflammatory stuff. Like everything is an inflammatory disease. We now know that diabetes, cancer, all these things, heart disease, it's all about inflammation. So frankincense is getting pretty popular and well loved. I personally, well, I'll talk about a little bit more about what it is. It's also a resin, so that's interesting. That my 2 favorite oils are resins, and I use it in a lot of similar ways. I use it for headache on my temples, almost immediately resolves a headache. I do the same thing on the roof of my mouth. I turn it over, I run my finger along my hard palate, and it's basically near the brain, right? So I put it on my temples, I put it on my hard palate. A headache is gone almost immediately. Super, this is to answer your question, is Matt. Frankincense is famous for fixing skin, scars, stretch marks. You put it in a carrier oil, you rub it on, you have to be consistent, but people say that it is amazing for that. My go-to thing with frankincense has been my gums. When I went through menopause, my gums receded, both sides, different places in my mouth. I had sore gums. Andrina will remember this. Now what I do is I apply it neat. I put it on my finger like that. I apply it neat to my gums. My gums are actually regrowing. I don't have sensitivity on my gums anymore. And here's a little story. At the beginning of COVID, I have a little place that's left over. My teeth are almost completely better, but I have a little place that bothers me, and I think it might be a cavity, or I thought it might be a cavity at the beginning of COVID, and I've been kind of controlling it with frankincense. At the beginning of COVID, I had this feeling in my teeth, and I thought, oh crap, I have to go to the dentist, and it's COVID, and I can't go, and what am I going to do? And it really hurt, and it hurt whenever I ate anything, whenever I ate sugar. And I just thought, I haven't used it on my teeth for a while because my teeth were so much better. And I just started actually putting it, same technique, turning it over, rubbing it on my gums in that one place. Within 3 days, I didn't feel it anymore, and I don't feel it anymore. So that was like, what, 3 months ago? It's kind of, this stuff is like a miracle for my teeth. It really is. And then I, of course, use it because it's famous for skin. I use it on my skin. This is a blend called Immortelle, and when I have it, this is expensive, frankincense. Frankincense is a little more expensive than oil. When I have it, I rub it on my palm, and then I put my face lotion on it, and then I rub it on my face. And yeah, I really love this stuff. What I think would be actually really cool is to combine Copaiba and frankincense and put it on my face with my facial oil, but I haven't gotten around to that. And the very last thing about frankincense, from my perspective, is I also have some liver challenges left over from the parasite. And everyone says that frankincense is amazing for your liver. So this is something I've been doing quite consistently for the last, I don't know, month. I've been putting diluted frankincense. So this is a roller bottle. So there's probably like this much frankincense in it and this much coconut oil. And I've been putting it on the soles of my feet and rubbing it directly on my liver. The intention is to reduce inflammation in my liver. That's my experience with these guys. So I think I'm going to hand it over to Andrina now to talk about On Guard and Deep Blue. And then if you have questions, just write them down. We'll take them at the end because some people might need to get going.
Yes.
I'm going to give it to you.
Thank you, Nikki. So yeah, Deep Blue and On Guard are probably some of the best-selling oils within doTERRA. I want to talk about Deep Blue first because it's a really nice combination to the Copaiba. Because like Nikki mentioned, you know, it also helps with, you know, healing kind of on a really broad level, right? And Deep Blue is the oil for surrendering to pain. And it's so interesting. Like when I was reading originally about it, and it kind of said, you know, you're using your pain kind of as a teacher. And I remember Nikki, long time ago, told me, you know, your injury is your best teacher, and that's what Deep Blue teaches us too. And what's so interesting on sometimes we have pain, physical pain, we don't really know where it's coming from. And Deep Blue also helps us to dive deeper, also to actually explore and find out maybe what the source of the pain is. And that could be emotional. It could be a past thing that we don't even realize, right? Our teacher, Elena Brower, she mentioned that she used to have really bad lower back pain, which I can definitely relate to. And she said she also had a lot of hang-ups with money. And then she said she worked on her money beliefs and used Deep Blue. And I think Deep Blue helped her to go into that area of realizing that it could be something else than just a physical pain, right? So it unveils quite a bit. And Copaiba is also the oil of unveiling. So that's why they also work really well together. On a very physical level, Deep Blue is great for any pain. Shoulder, Lara just mentioned that it really helped her, like she mentioned in the chat, that it really helps her with her shoulder and her neck. For any, you know, any sports people, you gotta have Deep Blue. You know, it's if you even aches, right? Like we get like I just had a knee thing because I started running again during the lockdown, and then, you know, I have knee thing, and, you know, not only Deep Blue, but Deep Blue definitely was helping in the recovery. I also had some sessions, but it gets really, this almost this kind of mix of icy hot. And what's really interesting, so Deep Blue is a blend. Sorry, I should have mentioned that. So it's a blend of different oils, and it has wintergreen in it. And wintergreen apparently has the same effect as if you would take aspirin. So it helps with pain, and that's why it's so helpful in that blend of Deep Blue. So you can apply it wherever you feel the pain. There is also the rub, which I almost prefer than the oil itself.
Me too.
Need so little. Like I pretty much every time I take too much, you need like literally like just like a fingertip, and it's enough. I've also, the roller is also really handy. The roller that doTERRA has, I find it's almost not strong enough, so I make my own. I just put a roller top on the regular bottle. And, you know, it's great, like, for example, if you, like what I mentioned before, like you can just rub it onto the spine, for example, which is really nice. So to give you a little bit more info on the oils that are in that blend. So I mentioned wintergreen. There's also camphor in it, peppermint, ylang ylang, helichrysum, blue tansy, blue chamomile, and osmanthus. And it is actually really blue. The oil is really deep blue.
Very blue.
It's very blue. Yeah, I can't really show you, but it's beautiful. And it smells. It smells very. I don't know,
Medicinal. Yeah.
Yeah, it does. It's almost like a. It reminds me also of like these body rubs, right? We get like in Chinatown. They work great and they smell strong, but they do help. I've also actually, when I had stomach cramps, I've also put it on my stomach because it relaxes the muscles, right? So that's deep blue. Oh, and deep blue, they also have capsules, deep blue capsules, which are fantastic to take when you did like a big workout. Maybe when you know you're gonna go hiking. You can take one in the morning, one in the evening, and your body is definitely gonna thank you. There's also turmeric in it and ginger, so it all helps with the inflammation aspect of maybe some muscle aches. And then moving on to On Guard, and I don't know how it is in Canada, but here in Europe, during COVID, they're limiting the amount of On Guard products because there's different products of On Guard, which I'll mention briefly. They're limiting how many you can order per person or per account because they don't want people. Same there. Okay. So On Guard is amazing for the immune system, and that's of course why it's such so popular right now, right? And that's like what Nikki mentioned with what we did at the retreat with the hay fever. It's amazing, and it's because it's the oil of protection. So it protects you energetically and physically from anything that doesn't belong to you, right? So, if you have some kind of, whether it's protection that you need in terms of energetic boundaries, or like what maybe we're dealing with right now, right? Of course, it's not a healer or anything, but it definitely helps with the immune system. And we have the On Guard, just the regular, the oil. On Guard has there's a lot of different products with On Guard. So there's also little beadlets. They're really small. You can just, I don't know if I can show you. Oh.
They taste a bit gross too.
Yeah, and On Guard for me,
they're bitter.
Yeah, On Guard smells a little bit like Christmas. And that sounds nicer than it actually smells. Some people love it. I don't. I take On Guard because it's good. It's healthy, but I don't really love the smell. It has a lot of clove in it, wild orange, eucalyptus. So it's a whole mix. What they also have is these soft gels, and I do take these almost daily, one, just to really help with the immune system. They're just this big, and they have soap, because of course if you use something that is helping with protection, and you use it to for your soap and for your hand wash, and also even cleaning supply, obviously it helps with your entire system. It's also great to diffuse it because the air is going to get cleaned and you breathing it in, so it helps your body and your entire system. So yeah, so to give you the entire list what's in it. I think I almost had. I do need, I have my cheat sheets here too. On Guard, wild orange, clove, cinnamon. I forgot cinnamon. Yeah, eucalyptus and rosemary.
And just to jump in here, this is also an ancient blend. This was known as thieves' oil, and it's been used since the Middle Ages to ward off plague. So there's this particular blend has been around for a very, very long time and used in this way. Oh,
Perfect.
did we lose you, Andrina? Okay, sorry.
Yeah, so shall we open up for questions?
Sure, yeah. So we can, I guess, officially like call this meeting over, and then if you have questions, you can stay. If not, you can go. Yeah.
Also, if questions come later, right? Sometimes questions come later. You can
Yeah.
obviously just get in touch with Nikki. She's the Hermione. She knows the answers.
Yeah, exactly. Just I'm Hermione. Yeah. So just ask me if you have any questions. You can DM me, or you can ask right now if you're comfortable with that.
Well, you brought up frankincense for me.
Yeah, for skin.
Oh, somebody's typing a question. I didn't know you could do that.
Yeah, the chat. I don't know if I have, let's see how access I have to the chat in my.
I did that just
I
so I
can read
wouldn't.
questions if you want.
There we
Nikki.
go.
That was brilliant.
Yeah.
It's
Okay.
on, I can't see what it is, but somebody asked a question by chat.
Oh yeah, I see that. Kim said it. Yeah, okay. Copaiba and children 7 years old. It's my experience that Copaiba is very, very mild, Kim. I can check for you to make sure with kids, definitely diluted. On kids, everything is diluted, but I would not be at all surprised, but I'll check for sure. And definitely, I mean, I would say definitely externally. I probably wouldn't give it to them internally. Just a funny story, but Peggy, the person that made her face go numb, she was taking 40 drops a day. She was getting so much. She basically replaced her use. She has high anxiety. She replaced her use of CBD with Copaiba. She was taking 40 drops internally. Andrina and I both went, no, that's way too much. So she has reduced it to about 5 drops internally a day. With kids, I probably wouldn't give it to them internally. It's probably safe, but I probably wouldn't. I tend to be very, very conservative with this stuff, but I would roll it on their feet, in their elbow creases, all the things that Andrina said.
I would probably, like, kids love the foot massage, right? I mean, that's and it's really easy. You can put a little bit of carrier oil into your hand, maybe 1 drop, and then you give a nice foot massage. I would do that.
Lara says, I feel good about getting through menopause challenges. Oh yeah, yeah, this is the deep blue. This is because Lara's having some issues with joint pain when she is going through menopause. I had the same when I went through menopause, so obviously that's like a family thing. Although I don't think Mo had it, but I had, Andrina will remember, I had bilateral tennis elbow, very terrible. Even when I would travel on the plane, anything touched my elbows, it was terrible. I didn't even think of Deep Blue at the time, but Lara's going through a similar thing with her shoulders right now. And I think Deep Blue has been super amazing.
Maybe caps would be something for her. Deep blue caps.
The caps, yeah, maybe she might want to. Yeah.
Wait, Deep Blue is a capsule, like you can ingest it?
Yeah, let me get it. I'll show you.
Yeah, I have never, there's a lot of, so there's, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 of the oils that are super popular and effective that doTERRA has made into capsules. I personally don't take very many. They do make Copaiba capsules. They say each capsule is 2 drops, plus they contain a carrier oil. So I've taken Copaiba capsules a couple of times. I don't notice that it makes any difference. So I just do that thing with my finger, but some people absolutely love the capsules.
So the deep blue comes in, so they have the oil, the regular oil, then they have the rub, then they also have the roller, and then they have the cap. So they have all these different, they have like 4 products, which are all deep blue.
But you could just take the roller and do what Nikki said and just put that inside.
Absolutely. Yeah.
One thing, I think Deep Blue would be pretty disgusting to take internally. And I wonder in the caps if they take out the wintergreen, because wintergreen, yeah, you don't want to do Deep Blue internally because it has wintergreen in it.
You need to take this.
Yeah.
Don't,
Yeah.
Why?
Because wintergreen is poisonous. It's not terribly poisonous. I know, I've done this research. I know it's not terribly poisonous. We've all taken those wintergreen you know, those pink things that our grandmothers had at their house, the candies, wintergreen flavored candies. People do use wintergreen as a flavoring, but you don't want to take it in large amounts. It is poisonous, so you don't want wintergreen anywhere near kids. And actually, doTERRA has a childproof bottle top on their wintergreen because of pets and kids. You don't want it anywhere near them. So I'm assuming that they don't have the wintergreen in the capsules. Yeah,
No,
deep blue is not an oil we take internally.
I think you have another question.
I'm sorry, what was the question?
There we go.
I don't know. I can't.
The best place to purchase the oils. Yeah, good question, Christine. The best place to purchase, the only way to purchase the oils, you can get them on Amazon. You can also get them retail. You can get a retail account, but the best way is actually to go through me. I'll set you up with an account. You can buy, you get the best price, you get a wholesale, and there's no minimum, like you don't have to buy a certain amount per month. You know, a lot of these clubs or whatever that you have to buy a minimum. There's no minimum with doTERRA. It's just access. So I set you up with an account. You can order whenever you want, but you can't buy them retail. Like you can't buy them in stores. They do sell them on Amazon, but I don't know what that means. Like, I don't know if somebody's reselling them somewhere somehow.
It's actually
But,
illegal.
It's illegal. Yeah.
But yeah, that's the best way. And then plus you get Nikki and her wisdom. She can teach you.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Mom says probably why you can't get those pink candies anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay, well, now that my video decided to work, I have to go.
Oh, Ismat, we can see you.
Hi, everyone. Finally figured
Okay.
out.
Okay,
But
you're
sorry, I
off.
have to run.
Okay.
Thank you very much for the presentation.
You're very welcome, Ismat. Talk to you later.
Bye-bye.
Hopefully you can come to yoga.
Yeah, that would not today though. I'll be at the hospital.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay, good luck.
Bye.
Okay. Anybody else have a question? You can throw it in the chat or ask. And remember, you can always just ask me, DM me or whatever. Okay, Andrina and I are going to stay on and talk anyway. So if you want to stay, you can stay. We have to do our Harry Hermione thing. I have to pee first though. Thanks for coming, everybody, whoever hasn't left yet.